Welcome to Healthy Living. My guest is best-selling author Dr. David Perlmutter, and his latest book is Brainwash, Detox Your Mind for Clearer Thinking, Deeper Relationships, and Lasting Happiness. Dr. Perlmutter, welcome.
Always good to see you, Lori.
Likewise. Now, we know from the news that the rates of suicide and depression are just going through the roof. And you say that this is largely due to our modern day culture sort of hijacking our mind, as you put it. But the good news is in this book, you talk about ways to reverse that trend. So can you tell us more about how modern society is sort of rewiring our brain?
Well, sure. And I think it's important to really get your arms around the fact that we love our digital technology. It allowed us to write the book. We had access to unlimited information. What you and I are doing right now with all the technology that's around us here in the studio, great stuff. But I think at the same time, we're all aware of the idea that we are mere pawns and being manipulated by what our online experiences are like, that there are constantly pop-up ads trying to distract us from whatever it is, for example, we are online trying to do. Our attention is highly valuable, not necessarily for our benefit. And what we really call out, our research demonstrated that the taking away of our time, just from our time perspective, is really quite aggressive when we could be spending that time doing things that are better for us. We do know that, for example, people who suffer from internet addiction, and that is 6% of the global population, that there is actual change in the way the brain is configured in these individuals. So it's, Christian Lang said, in 1921, won the Nobel Prize, a historian, that technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master. So it's all about context. It's not good or bad. It's how we let this work its way into our lives.
And you really drilled down on technology, and you mentioned research. This whole book is full of evidence-based research, and this book is so valuable already. It's a bestseller.
It happened very quickly, and we're so excited that it's already been picked up in 16 countries around the world. And it is a labor of love that our son, Austin Perlmutter, an internal medicine MD, he and I were sitting back one day and talking about our challenges as physicians. And the biggest thing that came out between the two of us was that we do our ultimate best to learn as much information as we can. Then we do our ultimate best to transmit that information to our patients, but then nothing happens. You know, 70% of the time, there's no follow-through. And then we became aware of statistics showing us that as many as 95% of diet plans ultimately fail. People regain the weight. So it's not that people don't have good information, but we needed to create a bridge between information and action. We realized the breakdown happens in the decision-making part. And we learned that our brains make decisions based upon which part of the brain we utilize.
Right.
Do we use this area up front called the prefrontal cortex, where we make a decision that lets us think about tomorrow, that lets me think about how my actions will affect you, for example? Or do we lock into areas of the brain like the amygdala that only think about right now? We call that impulsivity, and only think about me and not having empathy and compassion towards others. Now, so many aspects of our modern lifestyle are keeping us locked into that type of literally mentality, only thinking of ourselves, narcissism, and not thinking about tomorrow. And it's time that we get rid of this. We call it in the book disconnection syndrome. We need to reconnect to that part of the brain that fosters better decision-making and fosters empathy. And that is the ability, for example, for me to share in what it's like to view the world through your eyes. What are your opinions and how can we discuss that? We call that cognitive empathy. That's a function of this front part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. And we look around today and we see that there's so little of that, that people are locking themselves into one way of thinking, my way's right, your way's wrong,
Right.
end of story. And that doesn't help us move the ball down the field.
Well, that's why I really find this book revolutionary. It is groundbreaking. It is one of these books that I read and I thought it was one of those aha moments, because basically what you're saying and what I'm reading in here is that people like me, all of us experience where we have the best intentions, as you say, but when it comes down to what we actually do, when we're faced with the decision to do what we know is right, whether it's eating the right thing or saying the right
That's
thing,
right.
we choose the wrong, which is often an impulsive decision. And what you're saying here is that we're not 100% complete failures, lack of willpower.
That's
that
such a good point.
It's the area of the brain
Yes.
that's making that decision. The amygdala is the one that we're feeding with our culture and our crazy lifestyle. And the amygdala is the one that's self-centered, impulsive, fear-based. But the prefrontal cortex, that's the one that's empathy and thinking about long-term future, where you make good decisions. And if we change our behavior, we can start focusing, our prefrontal cortex will take center stage.
And you know, it brings up an interesting point that you touched upon, and that is we as physicians blame our patients because of their lack of willpower.
Right.
The reality is that their decision-making apparatus isn't functioning well. We can't blame them. And similarly, people need to stop their self-blame when they've cashed in on their New Year's resolutions. And they know what they should be eating. We don't suffer today from a lack of good information. But what Brainwash does is it provides the bridge between information and action. We know what we should eat. We know we should exercise. We know how we should treat other people, but we oftentimes don't, because our brains have been literally rewired against our ability to carry out those tasks in the first place.
It's really fascinating, and also I find rather comforting, because people who feel like they want to just give up, they have no self-control, we can actually start changing our behaviors and our prefrontal cortex, the part that, well, they both serve their purposes, but it can be more balanced.
That's a good point, that they both serve their purposes, and it is about balance. The amygdala, because it is so much involved in instantaneous, impulsive reactivity, is very helpful when you're backing your car out of the driveway and suddenly there's a tricycle behind you in the rearview mirror and you step on the brake like that. You didn't think about that.
Right.
You don't need to go through your prefrontal cortex. How is this going to affect my future? Whatever.
Right.
You need the ability to respond instantly. That's the gift of the amygdala. But when that sort of activity is the main operating system for our day-to-day lives, it doesn't help us make good decisions about our food, about how much time we're going to dedicate to sleep and exercise, preparing our meals. And we sever that connection to some degree between the prefrontal cortex and lock into the amygdala due to the presence of something called inflammation.
Inflammation.
A topic you and I have talked
Our
about this before.
number one enemy.
Yes, that underlies heart disease, diabetes, cancer, even Alzheimer's. That same inflammation can be brought upon us by not getting restorative sleep, by a diet that's high in sugar and high in additives and ultra-processed foods. That same process, inflammation, restricts us to more behavior based upon the amygdala and makes it less likely that we can be in a place to make better decisions.
Right, and you talk about the amygdala is the area that's so closely tied with fear, and there's so much fear in our world. You turn on the news and there's terrorism and the coronavirus and all these, what's going to happen? And so our brain, you say in the book, really responds to fear more than other things.
And the more we cater to that, the more we wire into that part of the brain. This is called neuroplasticity. Neurons that fire together end up wiring together. So these, this relationship we have, it's how you learn how to swing a tennis racket.
I think you've done a great job of identifying the problem. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, the good news, how we can rewire our brain. So stay with us.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back to Healthy Living. My guest is Dr. David Perlmutter, author of the wonderful book, Brainwash, Detox Your Mind for Clearer Thinking, Deeper Relationships, and Lasting Happiness. And that's what we're all about. And you were talking about how our modern society kind of messes up the way our brain works, but we can reverse it. And the main culprits, you say, are technology, lack of sleep, lack of being in nature, lack of time praying and meditating, and then diet. So let's talk about all of these different things, and also technology. What are your recommendations?
Well, again, it's great that we have technology. So we're not Luddites here saying we're going to go back to another time. But I think that we're all aware that our technology can get the better of us, that pop-ups happen and advertisements happen, and the next thing you know, you're not exploring what you were trying to learn about when you're on your technology. And so we apply what is called the test of time. T, how much time are you going to dedicate to accomplishing whatever that task may be? I, is it intentional? Do you define your goal? What am I going to do? M, is it mindful? Are you staying with the program while you're online, keeping yourself focused on the task? And finally, E, is it enriching? Are you net positive once this has happened? So we know that there are forces at work that tend to take us away from the task when we're online. Mm-hmm. Things are popping up all over the screen, taking us to whether it's a car dealership or a weight loss program, you name it, that's always happening. So we want to use our technology, we want to do so mindfully. When we realize that the average American spends more than 6 hours a day in front of one screen or another, their tablet, their television, their computer screen, their smartphone. It's not just what's going on with that relationship, but beyond that, that's valuable time that you could have been out of doors. You could have been exercising, preparing your meals, shopping, personally interacting with other people. That helps us fight disconnection syndrome, where we're able to reestablish the ability of the prefrontal cortex to really be the adult in the room. And it's interesting, we talked earlier about inflammation, our old friend inflammation again. And in the context of diet, when you recognize that this Western diet, which is so pro-inflammatory, is becoming the global norm, that means that globally we are fostering people becoming more connected to the amygdala, the fear center, the us versus them part of the brain. So in a very real way, this globalization of the Western diet is changing the way people see everyone around them across the planet.
That's just so frightening. But I love how you make the connection, because really most people don't make the connection between what they eat and how they treat other people. But there is a connection.
Home run. What you just said is an absolute home run. It's a few dots along the way, but think about that the foods we choose to eat influence how we see the world around us, how we see each other. And, you know, getting back to the technology part of that, you know, most people tend to resonate with social media sites that are along their frame of reference in terms of their viewpoints only, to the exclusion of being with other ideas. And that's so, again, we call that cognitive empathy, the ability to be with somebody else's perspective. That's so valuable for us.
And this is such great motivation to eat the right way. A lot of times that's the key in starting the right eating plan and sticking with it is your motivation. And if you're doing it just to fit into a dress that you're going to wear to a wedding, that's not very good. But if you're doing it to improve the way you see other people and also the way you see yourself, because you have made the connection in the past between our diet and levels of depression, and we see that the way that we see ourselves in the world is also related to the diet. So I know our viewers are probably saying, okay, you've convinced me. What am I supposed to eat? What am I not supposed to eat? You touched on the processed food. Let's briefly go over, with just 1 minute left in the segment, what we should really steer clear of and what we need to gravitate towards, and then we'll drill down on that a little bit.
Well,
later.
Again, if you're going shopping, the place to be is really looking at the periphery of the grocery store, recognizing that in America's grocery stores, the 1.2 million foods sold there, 68% of them have added sweetener, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Recognizing that we want to buy things that isn't necessarily in a package, it doesn't have a list of ingredients. That's a general guide. But it's real food. And yeah, people are on the go and have difficulty preparing their foods. But I think when we get our arms around the fact that these multi-ingredient prepared foods that take so long to work into our meal plans increase inflammation, it's a powerful argument in favor of steering clear.
All right. Well, once again, the book is called Brainwash, How to Detox Your Mind for Clearer Thinking, Deeper Relationships, and Lasting Happiness. We're going to talk more about diet when we come back, and also some other lifestyle changes you'll probably want to adopt to your way of life. So stay with us.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today.
Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Welcome back. And once again, the book is called Brainwash, Detox Your Mind for Clearer Thinking, Deeper Relationships, and Lasting Happiness. And Dr. Perlmutter, really a lot of this book is devoted to diet. You have lots of wonderful recipes in here. And you say really what we need to avoid are things that have a lot of sugar in them and that are packaged, processed foods, and then gravitate towards the things that are on the outside of the grocery store, especially the produce department. But you also really focus on healthy fats. You love those.
Who knew? Who knew in this day and age that you and I would be having a discussion on a health-related program about the value of having more fat in the diet? But it's the good fat. It's the fat from nuts and seeds and fish, for example. Those are good oils, good fats that actually, towards our discussion of inflammation, help turn inflammation down, and that's what we want. You know, when you are eating those pro-inflammatory foods, as mentioned, that leads to more impulsive decision-making. And guess what? That's more impulsive decision-making as it relates to the foods we eat. So you eat those foods, then you have more inflammation. And what happens? You eat more of those foods. It's a vicious cycle. The same on-ramp would be getting not enough restorative sleep. 1/3 of American adults do not get enough restorative sleep. Quality and quantity. And the very next day, there's as much as a 60% increased activity of this impulsivity center, the amygdala.
Wow.
Whereby that next morning, we all know this to be true, that you get a bad night's sleep, the next day you don't eat right.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately, not eating right means that you may gain weight. And if you gain weight, you're not going to sleep very well. Another vicious cycle. You know, it's our research showed that when people chronically get poor sleep, their average caloric increase per day is around 380 more calories per day without an equal increase burn, an energy burn. So
wow.
That means a pound of fat within a week.
Wow. And so one of the greatest diet tips out there is get enough sleep. But people will say, oh, I'd love to get enough sleep, but I can't do it. I know that's a word that we shouldn't use. But a lot of times people can't fall asleep or else they'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and can't get back to sleep.
Well, we address that. And we're giving people great ideas in terms of what we call sleep hygiene. How do you create an environment that allows you to get exactly what we're talking about, restorative sleep that helps you reconnect to the decision maker, the better decision maker? And that would be, for example, let's not have caffeine after 2 p.m. Let's limit our exposure to computer screens in the evening because they contain blue light. Blue light inhibits the body's ability to make melatonin, and that will keep you up at night. Let's not eat just before we go to bed. Let's get our exercise perhaps a little earlier in the day. We outline an entire program looking just at sleep because it turns out that sleep, or lack thereof, is a powerful way to keep you from accessing this good decision maker in your brain, this area that allows you the ability to be empathetic and compassionate towards others and even towards yourself.
And a lot of people say, well, I'm too busy. I would love to get 8 hours of sleep a night, but I'm too busy. But then you just got done saying, maybe if you cut back on the 6 hours of screen time every day or the hour that you spend on social media every day.
People seem to believe in our culture, and certainly in Japanese culture more so, that staying up late is the way to be more productive, get more done, waking up really early. And who needs to sleep? That's valuable time. I could be doing whatever. Well, it turns out that the opposite is true, that when you get a good night's sleep, you're much more creative, much more productive, and you're actually a lot more fun to be around the very next day, and you make better choices as it relates to what we've talked about, your food and exercise.
All right, well, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Perlmutter about how to detox your mind. Stay tuned.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern Gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torresadillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
Dr. David Perlmutter, author of the book Brainwash, is here, and we've been talking about ways to detox our mind, touch on things like getting out in nature, the importance of exercise, and spending time in prayer or meditation.
Well, let's take nature first. What an incredible body of research has recently evolved, telling us pretty much what we already knew. Who doesn't go out into nature and doesn't feel better? You know, there's nobody getting out in nature saying, gee, I wish I were in an urban environment because these trees, I don't know, it's not for me. But now, beyond just feeling better in nature, we know that there's robust science telling us that it reduces inflammation, that's a great thing, and reduces stress, reduces cortisol. Both of those things, inflammation and cortisol, keep us away from this area of the brain to help us with better decision making. If you want to light up that prefrontal cortex, that's what prayer and meditation are all about. The research shows that when people are put in these sophisticated brain scanning machines during prayer, during meditation, it's the free ticket. And we've wondered, what is the value of prayer and meditation? Why is it so good? Because it allows us to access this gift that we have, this part of the brain to allow us to be the people we really know we want to be.
And exercise.
Exercise, absolutely. In the short run, oddly enough, exercise does transiently increase inflammation. But in the long run, we have lower levels of inflammation, lower levels of stress, and we actually grow new brain cells, more brain cells, when we engage in exercise. So you got to start somewhere.
All right. Well, the book is fascinating, and congratulations on its success. Brainwash, detox your mind for clearer thinking, deeper relationships, and lasting happiness. Dr. Perlmutter, always a pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Great to see you, Lori.
And thanks to you for tuning into Healthy Living. We'll see you again next time.